This week, it's, it's St. Patrick's Day week. I always love the shamrock story about shamrocks and then the four-leaf clover. And the four-leaf clover, of course, represents, there's several: love, faith, what was the other one? Hope and luck. So how I did these, and these, so we're doodling, of course. What you want to do is a couple of things that you need. You'll just need some watercolors, a pencil. If you have Post-it notes, I didn't mention that in my thing. The reason I'm doing, I did a Post-it note was because it's really not easy to make hearts consistent in shape when you're trying to draw. So what I did, and this is going to be kind of cool, is I actually just took a Post-it note. I'll just do this real quick. So I took a Post-it note, folded it in half, and then I just made I made a little heart, the half of a heart, and now I'm going to just cut it. And now I'll have my shamrock, my clover shape.
Okay.
That makes it easier. So you don't have to go through trying to draw something that looks symmetrical. This is the perfect way right here. Now I've got, this one's going to be a little different, but now I can just kind of trace out my lines. But at first, though, we want to get our, so just, when you have a minute, go ahead and grab your Post-it notes. And if you can, just take you don't need to, but I always like to mask. I like to put lay my, I just do this. I just want to lay my paper down, give it like a firm, get it down with some masking tape. And it's not necessary to do all four sides, but if you want, and if you even decide to do a background, you can do a background, and now you have your nice edges. So these are just nice to have, a little masking tape down. And I have some cold press watercolor. You can use any kind of paper for this. I also have some paints that I made just, this is the Jean Haynes watercolor set by Daniel Smith. And oh my gosh, the colors are beautiful. There's green, Cascade green, green Apatite, undersea green. Those three greens are what I used in the lunar blue. They are what I used to make this shamrock. So I'm going to put, if everybody could kind of go on mute for right now, I'm just going to, just so I can record this. Okay. So what we do is we have the paper, we're ready, and we also have, like this one would be a larger shamrock, and depending on what size how you want to do it, you can just make your shapes with your Post-it note, whatever size you want to do. So I'm going to start with this little guy and just kind of do it in the corner, sort of. And I'm just going to take a pencil, and I'm just going to, it doesn't have to be exact tracing, but kind of just so I can get the proportions of each leaf the same. I'm just going to do all of these. Let's see, I think I'll do it across from this, because if you go next to it, you might not space it the way you want to. So I'm just going to do sort of a loose tracing, not exact, but enough to get that sizing right. And I'll put the third one here, and they're going to be really close to each other, but you can always play with oops, or maybe the heart here is a little fat, but that's okay. You can always trim that, or decide if you don't like it that way, you can always do it however you want to do it. And I'm just going to go in here and just kind of change the shape a little bit. So really the little Post-it note is really kind of a guide just to get that height, more than ever, the height of the clover leaf. And then I'm just going to wing it now in here. So here we are. So now I have a little shamrock shape, 4-leaf clover. And then I'm just going to make the stem, or whatever that is. I guess it's called a stem. I'm just going to draw it right in here, and I'm making it a little on the thick side so I can doodle on it. If you want to erase anything, of course I don't have my eraser. I got to find a little eraser, because I don't like to have pencil marks where I know I'm going to paint. There we go. That wasn't the best eraser for that. I'm just going to kind of make my just finalize the shape of the clover. This is my lucky Clover. And there it is. So now what you want to do is you're going to do a watercolor in the shape. And you can go dark. Like this one kind of was a little on the dark side, so I had to add some white pen. But you can go as light as you want or as dark as you want. And just go ahead and take your brush and your water and just fill in this area where you drew it, where the shamrock shape is. And still these lines can be loose. They don't have to be exact perfect tracings of what you did, or the watercolor doesn't have to be. So I'm just going to put a little bit of Cascade green. This Cascade green is really pretty. It's kind of a bluish, almost an aqua green. It's so pretty. And I'm just going to go on the outside of my shamrock. And after this dries, I will probably erase these pencil marks because they're not. I might even change the shape up a little. You can see I'm not actually going to the pencil marks. I'm actually kind of cutting. I'm not quite all the way to that, because if I painted over it, then I can't erase it. So I just kind of, I'm just painting kind of close, but not on it. And I'm going to do this on all four of and I want it kind of wet, lots of water, because you don't want it to dry yet, because I want to throw in some other color while these are still wet. If you find that it's drying too fast, you can just start to do your dropping in color while it's still wet. You don't want it to dry yet. So I'm just going to keep an eye on the first one that I did and just make sure that I'm keeping everything wet. Now you see what I did is I dropped a little paint on my on the outside, and I was able to dab it up with this rag. And when you use cotton paper, you'll have a lot more control over that kind of stuff, over spatters that you don't want to see. Of course, spatters are kind of neat looking, I think. So I'm just going to keep everything wet and moist while I'm doing this. This is like a light wash of color with just this one green, but any green you have will be fine. What I'm noticing with this Cascade green, it's crazy. It's actually creating a variation of color on its own. I don't know what's in it, but I can see a little bit of blue going on, a little like a turquoise. So if you haven't gotten it yet, Cascade green is the stuff. And I will add that to your palettes, Denise, and whoever sent me palettes. I know that someone else did. So you will get this color in your palette that I'm sending out. So I've got my little 4 clover leaves, and if I wanted to add color now, I don't even think it needs it, but you can add, like, let's say I want to add a little green Apatite, which is another cool color. That one almost has like browns and golds in it. Maybe I'll just put that in the center and just watch it kind of move out. So I'm just going to push, I've got it, if you could see, I've got a little, I just dropped it in the center, and it's just going to blend out. The water should just allow it to do that. And I'm just going to bring my stem down, and that I think just like that looks pretty cool by itself right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry my little shamrock. It's looking good already. And I use my little heat gun just to speed things up. And I just love that Cascade green. Oh boy. I'm in love with it. But you can see now, as it's drying, the green Apatite kind of gave it a more yellowish green, and the Cascade green is more of a blue green. So it's just kind of it's fun, and it's very concentrated. It doesn't dry that much lighter, actually, than the actual, oops, it's coming off the page. So I'm going to get that dry. Just just paint your shamrock in. This one, it looks a little dark, but that's why I have a white pen. So you can go lighter if you like. Just kind of keep your water, just water it down even more. Make variations of light and dark, maybe, on the ends of the leaves. There we go. So now I've got a warped, you can see how I warped my paper. Now how I could fix that, I could just spray the back a little bit, but I'm not going to bother with it now because this is not a, it's not your normal, I'm just doing a doodle. And I might do another one here, which would be kind of fun, maybe doing a set of two down here, but I'm not going to do it now for demonstration purposes. I'll just kind of leave it like this. But you can compose a nice little watercolor, or you can just do doodle in your journal, or however you want to do this. And what I might do is take this, I'm just taking this off. And the reason I like to take, once I've done my watercoloring, and let's say if I did a background or something like that, I like to have it so that when I'm drawing, I can rotate the paper, you know, so I can just move it around when I'm drawing. So that's why I like to take it off of the background, or this. I don't want to tape it down unless I plan for painting. That's good, but not for. I'm going to grab an eraser. Okay. So now I have my. It's pretty dry. It's pretty close to being dry, and I'm just going to erase my little pencil marks that are out here. So it'll look like I spontaneously painted this. It won't look like I had to draw. But that's good, you know, even when you're doing the doodling, if you want to use a light pencil first to make your initial lines and then ink over it with your pen, you can do that. And it's a good way just, you know, to get you so your lines are nice and consistent. So now we've got, let's get that off. There we go. Got smudging going on, and I think it's my eraser. Okay, so now we've got a nice little base to start our doodling. And what I use for doodling is I'm using a Micron pen, and this is a 0.03. And I always like to check. It's nice if you're not, you know, used to doodling. It's nice to have a piece of paper, like right here. I've got my little Post-it note that I still have, and test your lines on it and make sure your pen is still, you know, still wet. Sometimes pens dry out, so just kind of test it and check out your line width. And it's also good just to practice the lines. You know, you've already done your painting, and here's a thicker one. There we go. And it's good just to kind of just kind of wind down and kind of start slow drawing and slow painting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this thing. I think I'm going to start, and this is going to be different than the one I've already done, but I'm just going to start by dividing, maybe taking a diamond shape, or maybe just going to make a little points right in the middle, just to kind of sort of a diamond shape in the center, you know, with my pen. This is a 0-1, and I think instead of a 0-1, I'm going to use a 3 so you can see a little bit better. Here, there's a 3. So now I've got a nice little shape in the middle, and that's going to be the beginning. And I'm going to work outward. So what I'll do is I'm going to make little petal kind of shapes. Right, I think I'm going to just go out here like this, and I'm going to do everything. And if I rotate the pen, the paper is a lot easier than rotating my wrist. So just turning, kind of just carousel, you know, make a carousel out of your paper. So I just made 4 marks, and I'm just gonna kind of go around, just like when you do Zentangle. And if you do Zentangle, you can actually make Zentangles in this, which would be pretty neat. But I'm just gonna make doodles because I don't know that I don't have any Zentangle patterns with me. Just go slowly and mindfully, kind of relaxing. And now I'm going to take some lines. I'm just going to make a line that goes all the way to that middle of this heart shape here, just to kind of to make it look kind of, I'm sort of giving the impression of a leaf. And I'm kind of making a slight curve to it, so it's not perfectly straight, just slightly bending it a little bit to make it look like more natural. Of course, this isn't natural, but and now I'm going to take, now I've got my sort of got this beginning shape going, And I'm going to also define the stem. I'm going to do that right away. And the way I'm going to just take I'll start at the bottom, and I'm going to make lines that kind of cross hatches. And I think I'm going to drop my camera down so you can see this a little better. Hopefully, let's see, I don't want to drop it down, and I'm going to let make it so you can see it, the drawing a little better. I think I'm going to have to do a focus. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to change the focus settings on my camera real quick so you can see that better for a second here. Let's see, get my, here, is that better? Because I think, yeah, that's a little clearer. Okay, good. So now we've got something that's you can see what I'm doing. So I've got the little diamond in the center, and then these little shapes, kind of little petals, and then the lines going outward. And that's my first thing. And then I'm just going to take, let's see, what would be a more natural way as we move outward. I'm going to take another shape, and I'm just going to kind of make another petal shape going on either side of the center of my shamrock or clover. It can be organic. It doesn't have to be perfectly done, but it just kind of gives this impression of some kind of growing thing. Something's growing out of it. And I think I'd like to just fill this center in a little bit. Gonna give it more depth. There we are. So now it's kind of receding a little bit. And then maybe just a little line that goes sort of, kind of hugs these lines, these little loops. Really, it's just up to you how you want to do this. But this is kind of my process. I'm going from the center and moving out. I've got this going. And maybe leave a little space here. And I think I might just make a curved line, maybe just on these. And this time I'm skipping every other one. So I don't want everything to be perfectly symmetrical. I want it to be all a little different. So I've got that going on there. And maybe on this one, I'll just, let's see, what we're going to do. Can't think, if I think too much, it's bad. It's better just to be kind of spontaneous. I'm just going to bring another line up here, just something different. And I'm going to do that on all of these, and just kind of in a nice little curve, a bend. If you kind of do the same move on each time, it kind of gives it a mandala effect. There we go. So now I've kind of got something going on here. So I can now start building little doodles inside these areas that I have. And that's just where you kind of do it, and you just kind of make things happen. So here I'll do maybe some zigzags. And I've got 3 zigzags on that one, and I'll just do the same thing on basically just repeat your pattern, whatever one you start, just repeat. There you go. Yeah. That's going to be fun. So I did it on all 4. So that's just kind of a nice base. And then maybe on these, I can do, let's see, what could we do? You can do all kinds of things. Maybe some round, I think I'll just do another line that kind of goes right next to that one. And I'm repeating on all 4 sides. And that will give me another place to doodle. Okay, now we've got some stuff going on here. So I could take this side and do maybe some circles. I think that'll be fun. I'm just going to do some circles, different shapes, maybe random circles. And when I do this, there we go. I've got those random circles. There's 5. So I'm going to try to repeat that on this side. I'm going to go a little circle here, a little one here. There's going to be 5. There's 3, a bigger one, and a little one. So I'm just trying to repeat the same thing. I'll do a smallish circle and a medium circle. There's 5. This is just such a relaxing thing, especially, if you have some music on, you can get just lost in your drawing. We've got 5 there. So I've repeated those same shapes in those sections. And then, of course, I could just keep building, but I could stop. I could actually start detailing this section, and instead of doing the whole thing, I could just detail sections. But in this one, I'm going to just start with the general shapes, and then I'll start detailing as I proceed more. So I've got that kind of going on. This would be fun to do, maybe a crosshatch thing, and which I love to do. I start at an angle, and I'm going to do this with a smaller tip. This one I'm going to go with a 1. Oops, that's not a 1. Where's my 1? There it is. So I'm going to do this section here on all 4 sides, and this takes a little time. I'm going to make little lines, 1, 2. I always count them, and I've got it at an angle, these little lines. And then I'm going to just change my angle. I'm sure that some in Zentangle it's a zigzag, and I don't know what it's really called. There's probably a name for it. But you just kind of go back and forth in the different angles.
It's called Shattuck in Zentangle.
Thank you. Shattuck? This one, okay. Well, that kind of sounds like shamrock, doesn't it? Thank you. And what's great about it, it's the meditative aspect is the counting and then the deliberate pattern making. It's a very calming thing. And it's a form of meditation, which is what the founders of Zentangle intended for. And I think it does its job, because I'm already calming down from what I was a little while ago after doing that meeting first thing in the morning without waking up. So here's the first step. So I want to repeat the same thing on this other section here as I rotate it. So I'm just going to get back into it's going to be in the same position as I was before, so it's easier for me to repeat that pattern. So I'll just start my little angles, my little lines. Start with 4 if I can. I usually do 4 or 5 short strokes. And then you can put them close together or far apart, whatever feels good to you. And also you can curve the lines if you want. If you like that more of an organic shape, you can make them slightly curved. And that looks really unique as well. But I'm going to keep mine on the straight side, just because I started that already. And just kind of continue until you fill up the area, the entire space. And you'll notice that because your shamrock or your clover is different, the leaves are slightly different in shape, you're going to find that you're going to have to do a little different on each one of these. A little bit more strokes or more lines. That's okay. So now I've got this one filled in. I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to do the same thing on the third. And just kind of enjoy the silence. Actually, I'm kind of enjoying that. I know I always try to keep talking when I'm doing these, but sometimes maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should just do the lines and enjoy it. This would be fun too to do like a fish scale, or there's so many ways you can just alter this by curving or meandering the lines a little bit. All right, so I've got the third one, and now I'll do the last one here, the fourth one. And you can also just think of each leaf, each shape you put into it, maybe an intention or a thought like for the day or the week, or somebody you might be thinking about that you haven't seen in a while. I know there's a lot of us that haven't seen friends and family physically, haven't been able to go see them, but there is light at the end of the tunnel. We are, there is hope. And that's part of this exercise. It's just to kind of get centered and also make something pretty. All right, so I'm almost done with this part. And just be mindful not to go outside of the, your watercolor, but you can. It'd be kind of interesting if you did. You can also, once we're finished, you can outline the whole thing. But I kind of find I liked that I didn't outline it, and it kind of makes it just the beauty of the watercolor is still there. So I've got that, and let's see. So I've got round, I've got straight designs. Maybe on this one, maybe I can do. I'll take my number 3 now. Let's see, number 3. There you go. I'm going to just kind of make some more petals because I just like that. Or I can make, I'm just going to make petals, starting with, which was basically a kind of a, this one was dry. Oops, dry pen, not good. So that's dry, I have to put that away. I'll toss that in the trash. Dry pens it doesn't make for a happy experience. So now I got to just go back over that, hopefully not too dark. So I've got this kind of elongated shape, and it looks kind of like a long, I don't know what that's called. I'm just going to do that I'll make 3 of these, kind of large and bold. I'll do the same thing on the next one. And then I'll do another one. And one more. Okay, so now I've got that. And I think I'd like to just, at this time, maybe make little diamond shapes here, or a little, to repeat what was in the center, maybe. 3 times, just to kind of tip those off. Like little crowns, little jewels. So I basically have pretty much the doodle is pretty finished, but I want to do make some dark areas and light areas, and maybe some little other elements to just kind of finish it off. And then I'll bring in the white pen. So there's these. And what's kind of fun is this, let's say we take, I'll start with this. I want to just do like little small hatches that kind of meander. It's sort of just little small hatches that are far away from each other. Just kind of fill in this little area, and to give texture. Like this. You could do dots as well, but I think little dashes are kind of fun Just going to just do dashes right through, all through this little section. And just repeat in the section that you had, basically repeat in all 4 sections for all of your little, and everything comes together because you're repeating these in all your sections. There we go. Maybe even throw it down at the bottom. I didn't do it on this one. Just kind of vary those little hatches. We'll do the same on this one. This is a little faster. I can be a little bit more energetic with this part. What's kind of fun too, if you had some different kind of music where it's a little more happy music with more of a beat, you can draw with a little more energy. So I think I've got my basic stuff happening. And then what I would do too with a stem maybe is to just start with that little shot. I think, oh boy, you mentioned it, Diane. The little
Static.
Thank you. You can bring this down just to kind of give your stem some depth. I'm just going to go down this, partially down, not all the way. I'm going to change it up just a little bit right near the end. And I'm just going to take, right here is where I'm going to do it. Okay, so now I'm just going to take a line. I'm just going to follow the center and then just go down. We kind of have my lines close together. And that fills that in. So now it's time to darken things. So let's say I want to just take from the center. I've got this going on. I can actually get a little thicker. No, maybe not. All right, we'll take the number 1 because this is very delicate. So I'm going to just take where these little loops were, I'm just going to make them into kind of like leaves. I'm just putting a line in between them. And I could make little hatches. I could color, make solid dark, dark and light areas. But I'm going to divide them into two parts right now and see. I think they'll just be little leaves. So I'll just have to make little tiny lines. But you could make little dots. Little cactuses would have been cool. I should have done that. But hey, this is what I'm doing now. So I just take my little, and I'll just make little veins of the leaves on both sides. So you can see I've got that little tiny veins. I'm just going to keep an eye on our time. We're good. We've got plenty of time. We might even be able to finish this. There's some details that you'll want to do probably after. But you can get most of this done today in one session. I'm kind of going a little fast, and I think what I'll do from now on is I'm going to just work on one section just to show you what I would do. I won't go through all 4 because then we'll be here for another hour. So I'm just making this little part happen, and then I'm just going to go with my thicker pen, and I'm going to take these little zigzag things, and I'm going to just fill them in with a little dark. So I need some dark and light. Just going to fill those in with a pen. And I could repeat this on the other ones, on the other petals later. And I'm also going to take these little diamond shapes and darken those as well. So now I've got some nice contrast going. And with these circles, there's a couple of things I could do. I could fill the whole background in dark, or I could make the circles dark and then just do some fun things. So right now I'm just going to go ahead and fill the circles. Just see what happens. Can always come back with my white pen and bring back lights, highlights. That's fun, but I think it needs something else. So what will I do with that? I'm just going to connect these. I'm just going to connect them with kind of meandering lines just to see what happens. And I would do that of course, on all of them. And now I can actually take, that's a number 3, I'll take my 1. And now I can take and follow those little lines around the shape of the circle. Just kind of meandering. This is very like a little circle river. I don't know if that's in the Zentangle thing, but it's fun to see, just sort of a random thing, and you just design your own patterns. So now I can take these and make lines, or if I wanted to take a little, I can do, let's see, maybe a little shape inside. Just kind of play, make some random kind of shapes. And those shapes can be filled in and darkened, which I'll do. So I've got this kind of more organic kind of thing going on, mixed with the straight lines. We've got like a more interesting looking. So I'll repeat that of course, on all of them, and it will look much better, I think, when everything gets tied together. And this part, I think, would be fun to just make it, maybe, let's see, what would we want to do with this one? Let's make checkers. Like, I can just go in between, just make like a checker. That's not really a checker, but just sort of a thick, dark area. And then I could probably take that and go with white, or take some light and do that as well. So just going to do these. And as you just did detail, you can kind of decide what you want to do next. I think I'm going to darken these lines a little bit, give them a little more prominence. And now with the white pen, it's always good to test your pen to make sure it's flowing right, of course, because sometimes if it's not, and then you press down to get it to work, it's going to go all over your drawing. This one needs a little help. It needs shaking, mixing, and then I'll see if that's going to work. Now it seems like it's better. So what I think what needed to happen, because those circles came out just a little dark, I'm just going to put a white, and that's just not, that did not get dark enough, so not opaque enough. There we are. I'm just going to kind of put some white inside these little circles just to get some highlights back in right there. And same thing, I can do that with this little line that goes up. And let's see, maybe a dot of light in between those little diamonds. And I don't know if that's enough or not, but I'm going to leave it like that for now. And maybe I can darken these little sections. I'm kind of liking, I'm liking that design, especially when, actually let's do this in here too. When I do all the sections, I'm just going to make these just bring these out just a little bit. Yeah. What I've noticed that I kind of covered up some of my drawing, but that's okay. When that dries, I'll just go back in with the dark just to kind of bring that shape back out again. But that, I think I will just, that's the shape of that. And let's see. I think that would be it for that. And then I can just keep going. We can just keep filling in our ended. Basically, you want to repeat what you did on each petal. And that just ties it all together. No matter what you did, it will tie it together. So I'll start on this side. And really, ideally, is to just go through all petals and do like what we did before. Just, when you do one part, just go ahead and repeat it all on the other ones, and that will make it a little more consistent.